saying there's two resistors and they add together to make 1375 ohms. Okay. Now you could use R1 and R2 as your variables. Okay, if you were in an electrical engineering class right now, you'd probably do that. You do not have to do that in algebra. You can make this X and Y if you're more comfortable with that.
Okay.
Okay, like there, I mean, you've kind of thrown at me questions that are kind of at the tail end of systems, so there's not much to build into this. But you know, if I were teaching this to you fresh, I would say don't worry about the variables; they're just kind of get in the way. Okay. The second equation, because it's a system, right? You need two equations. The second equation is from this sentence here. It says that one of the resistors is 125 ohms greater than the other. Okay. So which one is greater? Is R1 greater or is R2 greater?
R1.
R1. So sometimes students struggle like, well, what is it? Is it R1 equals R2 plus 125, or is it R2 equals R1 plus 125? Okay. And you just gave me the answer. You said that R1 is greater. So it must be this middle one, because whatever R2 is, R1 is 125 more than R2. So if you're ever unsure, you just write both the equations and see which one makes more sense. But again, like I don't really like this because I don't like working with R1s and R2s. I'm going to set this up as X equals Y plus 125. Is that okay so far?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you have a system like this, you have some options for solving. Now, can you tell me what you remember from class? What are some ways that you know to solve a system of equations?
Um, we usually like use the R1 and then we multiply with the R2 in this case. But I see that you're adding right now, so
Well, I was gonna. So what I was looking for is there's two methods: substitution and
and
elimination.
elimination.
Have you heard of those?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what they should be emphasizing in the class is like when do I use one or the other? Okay. So I just need to rewrite this system here. Give me a moment here. X plus Y equals 1375. And then what did I say here? X equals Y plus 125. Okay. Now, the choice between substitution and elimination, it depends on how this is presented to you. Do you see how the second one is already solved for X?
Yes.
Okay. So when it's already solved for a variable, you generally use substitution. You're going to put this right here, everything in green, wherever you see an X in the other equation. Okay, so literally instead of writing X, you're going to write Y plus 125 plus Y equals 1375. Is that okay?
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Do you know what to do from here to solve this?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you combine like terms. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, we can do it together here, but there are two like terms. There's a Y and a Y. So how many Y's are there?
2.
Two Y's. Plus 125 equals 1375. Any idea how to solve it from here?
Um,
It's okay if you don't. I'm just asking.
no, I don't.
Okay, we're going to subtract 125 from both sides.
Okay.
So 2Y equals, if you need a calculator, you're welcome to grab it. I'm not anti-calculator or anything like that. Use whatever you're allowed to use in class. How about from here? Do you know how to solve for Y?
No, I do not.
Okay, so you're going to divide both sides by 2.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so Y is equal to 625. And then you're supposed to give the units of the problem. So if you're not sure, you go back and you look like what is Y, or what is the variable in question? It's resistance. So in this case, it's ohms. Okay. So
Okay.
so we sit with that. Now we're not done though, because in a system of equations, there's two equations, but there's two variables. Have we
Yeah.
solved for both variables?
No, we only
No,
solve for one.
only one. So we're only halfway there. So you're, half credit. How do we decide if which equation do you use to get the other one?
You use the substitution one.
We did use substitution, but you can actually choose either equation to solve
Oh,
for.
okay.
Okay.
But you just plug in the 625 for y.
Exactly. So x equals y plus 125. You put in the 625, and that's 750 ohms.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Is this a homework assignment or is this some as a
Yes, this is homework for tonight.
okay. All right. You got a lot. You got a lot here.
Yeah.
All right. So 15 is next, I guess. Is that right?
Yes.
Odds.
Yes, all
Okay.
odds.
Yeah. I'm only asking because I want to make sure we do the problems you want to do and not ones that are not needed. So
Okay. Thank you.
just to make sure. Yeah. Area codes. All right. It used to be a big deal. Area codes, we don't really care much anymore, but all right. So it says the entire state of Montana has just one telephone area code. Okay. The same is true for Idaho. Okay. So the sum of their area codes is 614 and the difference is 198. So this is a really complicated way of saying the sum of two numbers is 614. The difference of two numbers is 198. Okay. So when I say sum, what math operation am I referring to?
Adding.
Adding. And if I say difference,
Um,
subtraction, right?
Subtraction.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a little bit of like you have to be able to decode those things when you're reading this. Okay. And that's just part of doing these math problems. Like just, you got to be able to do that. So what do we call the first number? What do we call the second number?
X and Y. Correct.
Yes. Let's use X and Y.
Okay.
Okay. So the first case we're adding, what do they add up to?
They add up to 614.
Okay. And the difference? What is the difference?
198.
198. Good. Okay. Very good. All right. Now, when you have a system like this, again, you have to choose what method am I going to use to solve? All right.
You are going
And
to use substitution.
so you can actually always use both methods. Okay. But
Okay.
there's generally like a preferred way. It's kind of like, there's two ways to get to school. There's the long way and the short way, or, whatever analogy you want to make in life. There's usually one that's better than another. Now, in the previous problem, I'll go back to the previous problem. Do you see I was already solved for a variable?
Yes.
Is this already solved for a variable?
Yes.
So what I'm really asking is X or Y alone on one side of the equation?
No, they're not.
They're not. Okay. And same thing in the second equation. All right. Now we'll get into this a little bit more, maybe in a future lesson, but we are going to add these equations together. And
Okay.
this is a variation on elimination. Okay. So we'll just do this together here. What is X plus X?
X.
So there's two of them, right? There's one X and one X. How many X's total?
2.
2X. Good. And then you've got Y plus negative Y. So they're opposite in sign. So what happens to the Y's when you combine them together? Y plus negative Y.
They become 0.
Goes away. Yeah, we don't write anything. Now you're adding. That's why I put this add here. 614 plus 198. Looks like that's 812. 812. All right. You can double check me if needed. Now, in the previous problem, sorry for moving around so much, but I do like to kind of go back here. We had this line here, 2y equals 1250. We divide by 2 because it's being multiplied by 2.
Correct.
Okay. And the same thing applies here. Okay. You undo multiplication with division. Multiplication is undone with division, addition is undone with subtraction, and vice versa. Division is undone by multiplication, subtraction is undone by addition. It's yes. Sometimes things in life, like you go left to go right, you go right to go left. That's kind of the analogy here. So x is equal to 406. Okay, so I want you to pick one equation or the other, either the top equation or the bottom equation, and I want you to give me the value of y.
Is there any easier equation, or is there
Yes,
both?
yes,
Like,
and that's a really important question to ask. Yes, there is.
okay,
The top one I feel is easier because I like adding more than subtracting. So I'm going to tell you to use the top equation.
okay.
So let me know what you come up with.
Okay, I wrote the equation down. 406 plus y equals 614.
Yes, I wrote the wrong equation down. Good. Yeah, 406 plus y equals 614.
Okay.
And if you need to, you can grab a calculator or something for that, or you can do it by hand. Doesn't matter to me. Use whatever your teacher will allow you to use for a problem like this.
Okay.
So you want you to solve it. So if you need to do addition, then you solve it by subtraction. So minus 406, minus 406, and that's how you find y. He said if it's an addition problem there, you eliminate it by subtraction. You have a calculator?
I'm guessing you were allowed to use a calculator in this, looking at the next couple of questions. So if you've got one handy, or if I'll also let me drop this in the chat here. There's a online calculator I like, so let me just drop that in here. Welcome to
So
check
y
that out.
equals 208.
Yes, very good.
Thank you.
Good. Now sometimes when you're done with a problem like this, we used X and Y, and we did a lot of number crunching and getting equations, but sometimes your teacher wants you to like write a sentence to finish this off. And my question to you is, do you know does the instructor usually just say, yeah, give me the numbers, or do they want like a sentence at the
They
end?
just want the numbers.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's go to 25 next.
17. 17 cents.
You want to do them in order? Okay, let's do them.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
We can do it however.
No, you're the customer. You're the customer. You get to decide.
However you think is best. I'll take your advice.
Well, let's see here. No, we'll do 17 here.
Okay.
So let me grab it from the here. All right. So a little grainy, but I'll ask you if I can't see something here. I'll ask you. So it says in 2009, make this a little bigger, there was a combined total of 4,046 Gap and Arrow clothing stores worldwide. Okay, so the number of Gap stores. Okay, so actually let's start with that. So you heard me read out loud. It's a good idea to read them more than once here. This is an equation. There's two types of clothing stores in this problem: Gap and Arrow. Okay. Now we can use X and Y, but you can also use the letters from the words here, but it's totally up to you. Total also means sum. Okay, can you tell me the equation here from this first sentence? Can you give that a try, please?
So G plus A equals 4,046.
Perfect. Good. All right, now the next sentence is actually going to give us our follow-up second equation. Okay, it says the number of Gap stores was is like the word is in math. That's generally an equal sign. So it's like G equals whatever is about to follow. Okay, So the number of gap stores is 3 1/4 times more than the number of arrow stores. So G equals, and then 3 1/4, I'm going to write it as a decimal here, 3.25A, like that.
Okay.
So yes, you're going to have to, to interpret the sentences and figure out, what is the equation. And if you don't get the equation right, you will never get the problem right. So you have to take as much time as you need to figure this out. Like if this were a quiz or something, you might even go up to your teacher and say, hey, like, I just want to make sure I'm going in the right direction. Can you give me a head nod or something? Because you really need the system to be right. You cannot do this problem if these are not right. Okay. But now that we've got our system, again, there's two ways. There's substitution and elimination. You use substitution when one of the variables has already been solved for. Has a variable already been solved for?
Yes.
Yes. So when it's already solved for, I'm going to take everything to the right here, this 3.25a, and I'm going to replace that wherever I see a g in the other equation. All right, so that's 3.25a, that's taking the place of g, plus a equals 4,046. I'm taking all of this and substituting it, replacing in there for letter G.
Okay.
All right, so now you've got to combine like terms. Okay, 3.25a plus 1a is 4.25a. Okay, and
Could
whenever,
you explain to me how you got that, please?
sure, yeah, no, that's good. So the idea is that, like, if I were, here's what you can't do, and I'll use the analogy of apples. If you have 4 apples and 3 oranges, you have 4 apples and 3 oranges. Okay, but if you have 4 apples and 3 apples, you have 7 apples together.
Okay.
Okay, and you can combine them. You combine the front numbers when the letters are the same. So see how the
Okay.
A's are the same?
So does the A count as 1
Yes,
on the
and
other side?
it's not written. Like it's like I had to put that in. You will want to write that in. You will want to write 1A
Okay.
and that, because that will help you with like remembering, oh yeah, there's something there. So you add the two numbers, the 3.25 and the 1, that's 4.25a.
5.
Yeah, these are good
Okay.
questions to ask. Please keep them coming. All right, and then from here, the 4.25 is multiplying the a. Whenever you see two numbers squeezed together like this, or a number and a variable, they're multiplying.
Yes.
So you divide by 4.25, you divide by 4.25. And you'll definitely need a calculator for this. I sent you one through the chat that I really like. It's a something we'll maybe use in the future, but if you've got one handy, please divide here and let me know what you come up with for the value of a.
Okay. A equals 952.
Very good. Now, you go back to one equation or the other. Since G is already solved for, you probably want to use the second equation, but it's totally up to you. You can actually use either one. I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'd like you to get the value of G, and you can use, either this first equation or this second equation. Either one will work.
Okay.
Clear it, clear it. I need to clear it first.
Would that be 948.75?
So did you use the first equation or the second equation?
I use the first one.
Use this G plus A equals 4046. I'm asking, I'm just asking, that's all.
I didn't put the 4046, no.
Okay, so you got to use that. You got to use the full original equation, like G
Okay.
plus A equals 4046. And then you take that value of A and replace it. So it's G plus 952 equals 40446.
Okay. And then you would subtract the 952?
Yes.
Okay. And then G would equal 3,094.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna just stop the recording right here. I'm gonna